Hello and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. Today's guest is a Mr. Stefano Benatti. He's a podcaster and web developer all the way from Italy. Welcome to the show. How are you doing, Stefano?
Hi, Christian. Thanks for having me. Also, it's pronounced Stefano, but no, don't
Stefano.
worry. Yeah, don't worry because there's not a single English native speaker pronounced my name correctly. So,
Sorry, Stefano.
yeah,
much better.
As you said, I'm a podcaster. I've met a lot of people and everyone gets it wrong. So
it's tricky for me because I do know some other European languages, but I never know how to approach certain languages, if you know what I mean. Because like normally I would say it differently, but with the English pronunciation, it's unique in a sense. But anyway, okay, Stefano, there we go. Got it right. Let's get straight into it, man. You're the host of your own podcast. It's called the Cappuccino at 6 podcast. Tell us more about this podcast. What do you normally discuss in there and what type of guests do you normally have?
Okay, it all started with an ad on a site by just a random guy who was looking for a co-host for to launch a podcast. And I didn't do any of this before. I liked listening to podcasts and I wanted to try something. So I saw the chance to get into this world, answered the announcement, the ad, and then we started writing down some stuff. That was back in August, and in October we were on air. We don't focus on a topic, and let's say it's quite guest based. I mean, depending on what the guest does, especially when you start from zero, that you cannot really rely on many sources to find your guest. So I just came up with this idea. Actually, at the beginning, we were trying to make episodes just in Italian, a scripted episode with a topic, but that took way too much time. And also I said, hey, I can speak English in a decent way. I could try to interview some international guests. And now, since we started, we already have, I think, 13 or 14 episodes. Most of them are in English and some of them are in Italian scripted.
So is that like, I guess, because you have it on YouTube, so is that with like subtitles in Italian? Is that what you mean?
No, actually not. It's more for an international audience. And then if you understand Italian, you can understand also the Italian episode.
Oh, no. So, okay. So I've misunderstood. You do a Italian version as well as the English version.
They are different episodes. The Italian episodes are about scripted things that come to our minds. I mean, the last one was about the metaphonia, which is basically the voices of the ghosts. Okay.
Cool.
And whereas the English episodes are, as I said, guest-based. So
okay. I see. Yeah, I get what you mean. So with the Italian ones, as well as the topics in general, are they more kind of targeted to what people from Italy would, like more specific to the culture of Italy, or are they just generic kind of topics?
They're really generic. I mean, it's we are trying to evolve. We're trying to experiment a lot. We're trying to find our way. And in my opinion, the best way to find our way is to try whatever we want. And then maybe we'll focus on something specific. But right now, it's just a way to have fun in our spare time, in my spare time, since I have a job. So it's pure fun. I mean, I like doing it. And as long as I have fun doing it, we're good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, especially when you were talking about how sometimes it's very difficult to find information on guests. I've also had this problem sometimes. And when I've had that kind of situation where you're about to do it and you're like, I really don't have a lot to ask them. And it's like, I really hope that they're just full of energy and like really easy to talk to. But you never know. Some people are very easy to talk to and the conversation kind of evolves naturally. With other people, you have to, excuse me, you have to like poke them with a stick a little bit and be like, hey, what about this? Hello. See what you
By
get.
the way, I'm one of those guests and one of those people. Then, yeah.
That's fine. I mean, to me, it's a combination of different things. It's like me, for instance, as a host of this podcast, it's my kind of responsibility to make the guest feel comfortable, and through that's how you get the better conversation and stuff, I feel. But I suppose as another thing about this as well, which I haven't really spoken about on the podcast before, but it is very important, is what kind of time you give to your guest, and whether or not you kind of lead the conversation or if you just guide it, if you know what I mean. So yeah. I've been on other people's podcasts where, I come on and they just let me talk at will, and it's great. Or I've been on some podcasts where I'll be starting to speak and then they might cut me off midway, or they just want a short answer. And it's like, it's different. It's a different way to do it. But I find those kind of frustrating, because especially if you're trying to tell a story and you're being told like, hey, quicken it up, or, less is more kind of thing. And it's like,
yeah,
everyone's different, but I found it, basically my point is, it's better if it's more open-ended and you are there to listen to your guest rather than you talk and then they talk a little bit,
Yeah, well, I imagine that, I don't know if I'm your first Italian guest, but I imagine you'll have quite some questions to ask about my country, about our culture. So
we'll get there.
Yeah, that was what I was hoping for, because then I can go quite free flowing. I mean,
oh yeah, okay. So you're how you would say, very knowledgeable on your own country. I get that.
I mean, there's so much to talk about.
Absolutely. Wait, I mean, it's a good point though, because not everyone is fully clued up on their own countries. Like I remember when I started living abroad and visiting other countries and living abroad, I started to think about like, well, hey, I really barely know my own country, like I know the basics, I know the culture and stuff, but like, for example, the place that I moved to here, I'm originally from London, but I moved up north to Manchester, and I'm discovering all of these like really interesting historical facts about this place, links with other countries, all this interesting stuff that you wouldn't know unless you kind of dove in and explored the history of a place, And I feel like even if you live in a country your entire life and you're from there, you might never really know the history of the country, or, what it has to offer, what's available. You know what I mean? Like it really depends.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I moved as well. I moved from Lombardy, which is in the north of Italy. Moved not too much south of it. There's 40 kilometers, that's 30 miles, I guess, where I work, where I live. And my girlfriend is from another part of Italy as well, from up in the north, more than I was. So whenever we get to visit our parents, is always a trip across all northern Italy. And there are differences here as well in our little towns. And so I get what you said. Also, I believe that in Manchester they speak a different English. They have harsh accent. Am I right?
Yeah, there is a harsh accent. Yeah, you're right. But I don't know. I'm pretty used to it. I think the only time I've ever struggled with someone's accent was a couple of years ago. I was in Edinburgh for a couple of months in Scotland, and I remember going to like a local shop, and I tried my very best to. It was just a Sainsbury's, like a normal shop. Like you go there, you get your food, whatever, right? But I would just sit there or stand, and I'd listen to this woman politely and ask her questions, and she'd start speaking, and I was like, what was that? And then again, and then again, and then eventually it gets awkward, and you're just nodding like, but you have no idea what the person has said.
Yeah. That joke that was about, there was this joke circling around about the Scottish accent in the military. There's a captain talking to his soldiers, and he see a new soldier and goes, "Soldier, you come here to die?" And the soldier answered, "Nah, I come here just to die," because he was Scottish. So That's what I learned about the Scottish accent. I like to focus on that, on to English language. It's funny.
It is. I mean, it's interesting to me as well how the accents in England are so vastly different from place to place. Because I haven't found that to be the case in other countries all the time. You know, like normally there's a bit of a difference between north and south and stuff like that, but it's never like too different. The only difference tends to be more in certain words, certain dialect. It might be pronounced slightly differently, or maybe different words are used, but basically it's the same language, right? But in
It's
England,
not the case here.
right? Okay,
But
that's interesting.
yeah, I get what you just said.
Oh, so was it in Italy? Is it just everyone is spoken the same everywhere, or is that the deal?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
Italy is a young country. You know, we are 159 years old.
damn.
Italy was unified in 1861, and before that, it was a whole lot of different kingdoms and nations, and everywhere you go, there's a different dialect, a different language. For instance, also some languages are recognized as proper languages, not even Italian dialects. My grandma doesn't speak any Italian. She speaks the Mantuan dialect, the dialect from the city of Mantua.
Interesting.
Yeah, and my girlfriend doesn't get any of what she said. And my other grandma speaks another dialect, which is completely different, even though they're not too far away from each other, because it's another region, it's another part of Italy.
That must make it really difficult to try and communicate with some of your family. Do you know what I mean?
With the elderly, it can get difficult. Can get difficult. Well, Italian basically is an evolution of the Florence dialect, the Florentine dialect. I don't know if you say Florentine, from Florence, from Tuscany, with Dante Alighieri, the famous Italian writer from the 13th century, if I recall correctly. And that's the standard Italian. If you go to Florence, you are as close as standard Italian when you talk to people, but all around the country, there are too many dialects to list, to be honest.
Wow, that's something I didn't know before, so that's interesting. Thanks for sharing. As far as like the country itself is concerned, where would you say is the best place to visit around the country, or where's your favorite place?
I'm a little biased on this because I didn't visit the south as much as I wanted to.
Okay.
So I'm only speaking for the north and central Italy right now. Because the south is beautiful. The south has one of the best seasides you can find anywhere. Even comparing to the Caribbean, I don't see that many differences. Okay, in some places, and I really mean it. Also, there are beautiful cities, and there's Pompeii, you know, Naples. But I'm not focusing on southern Italy because I don't know southern Italy that much.
Okay.
So I don't want to miss any information about that. For sure, Florence and Venice are the places that you must go there if you
I would love to go Italy. Oh my God. It's, I mean, just you listing off the names of all those places there, it's reminding me like, oh yeah, damn, like there's so many different parts of the country to visit that all have like rich history and differ so greatly. You know, obviously with Venice being the city that's completely water based, which is pretty unique. Can't think of many places.
It is unique.
Yeah, I can't think of many places in the world that are like that, if at all, to be honest.
Some people say Amsterdam is kind of like Venice, but
yeah, I can kind of see that.
I don't know, Amsterdam is quite a modern city. It has its own architecture. It's beautiful. I visited once just for one day, but but Venice has something different.
Right. Yeah.
It didn't find anything like that in my journeys. I would say though that Milan is quite overrated. Now many people will hate me, but just because Milan is your regular big European city with its landscapes and statues and museums, but doesn't feel like it's something typically Italian, if you know what I mean. If you go visiting Milan or Berlin or Madrid, kind of feel the same with their difference in culture, but it's just your regular beautiful European city. Whereas Florence and Venice has something more. And then basically every city, every place you go has something to tell, as you said. The city where I live in, Modena, is the city of Ferrari, for instance. The city where Pavarotti was born, the city of the balsamic vinegar. So every place has its own story. And not talking cities only, because if you go up in the north, there's Garda Lake, Como Lake, those beautiful lakes and mountains. There's everything here. I live in probably the worst place in terms of landscapes, because I live in the flatlands in the north, but I can move with my car, and in a few hours, I get to see all those beautiful places.
Oh, that's got to be nice, actually. It's a lot more enjoyable if the area you're in is easier to traverse and it's not too long to travel. I've got to agree with that. I remember feeling the same when I was living in Europe. Like, it is very different to England. But then again, it depends where you are in England as well, to be fair. Because I grew up in London, and it takes like 2 to 3 hours sometimes just to get to one part of the city. So anyway, well, since we're speaking about Italy, I'm just going to fire questions at you, if that's cool, about Italy.
Go on.
What are your thoughts on Sicily? Like, I know this is the sort of thing that everyone asks questions about, and it's obviously heavily popular with tourists, and it's gained a lot of fame because of the Godfather trilogy, and just generally in popular culture around the world. But what are your thoughts as an Italian on the city of Sicily?
Sicily is a region that could live only on tourism, if it were to be ruled correctly, to be governed correctly. Unfortunately, it is not. And I mean, I'm being really generic, but the mafia is still very strong in Sicily.
Oh, interesting.
Really, really strong. Keeps its power, and the governor, the institutions, there's still much. How can I say that? They don't backfire. Okay, they tend to stay quiet and to let criminality into the institutions, into the. I cannot find the right words, but
I get where you're coming from. Like, it's entirely ruled and governed by them, and there's not going to be really any budging of that. That's just the way it is, kind of thing.
Well, you see all these governors, these institutions, or these mayors that are, oh yes, I will fight mafia, and then maybe the street to renew. You give the money to a friend of yours that maybe is a friend with the mafia boss. So it's how it works here. I mean, it's sad to say, but
okay, so
could do so much more about it.
With that in mind, because I've read a lot about, how, if we take like the Godfather movies as an example, specifically the second movie, which is actually filmed in Sicily in many parts, and obviously it's a fictional story, but like it's based on elements of truth, like in terms of like how the mafia would, or Cosa Nostra, I believe it's pronounced. Is that right?
Yeah, it's one of the most famous gangs.
Right. So, okay. Yeah. So, like,
you know what Cosa Nostra means, literally?
Someone told me once. I can't remember. What does it mean?
Our thing.
Interesting.
Our thing.
Okay. Would it be accurate to say that the way it's portrayed in the Godfather movies is kind of accurate of how it was historically, or is it like a bit over dramatized? Is it not as bad, or maybe it's worse? Like,
I think it's quite accurate. overall. In 1992, the mob literally blew up two judges who were about to judge mafia bosses. So they used to do that. The 1980s, 1990s in Italy had been riddled with attacks with bombs. Not only
suicide bombers, basically.
No, the exploding cars.
Right. Yeah.
Bombs in the cities and everywhere. Not all of them were by mafia, but some of them were. And now it's mostly underground jobs trying to sneak into our institution and trying to make money out of it. So it's calm in terms of bombs, but it's not changed that much, especially in some parts of Italy, such as Sicily.
So what do Italians in general think of the Godfather movies? Like, because I mean, it's you can't really deny that the heavy influence of Italian culture and stuff on that movie. Obviously, it's a bit different in the sense that, you know, it's Italians moving to America and then finding a life in America and so on and so forth. So there is that to take into consideration. But it's the messages, at least I got from it, is that, you know, family is very important. It's very, you know, a big thing, means a lot to Italians. And over the years, you know, I've had the pleasure of having, you know, flatmates that have been Italian and stuff. And one thing I've always noticed, which is very accurate, is that Italians look after other Italians, and there's a sense of kind of, I guess you could call it like community, maybe, if that's the right way to put it.
Yeah, well, personally, The Godfather is one of the best movies I've ever watched. So that's, first of all,
just get that out of the way.
Beautiful trilogy, especially the first one is amazing with Marlon Brando. And as of the family, the community, I think it belongs more to southern Italy.
Okay.
As to the whole country. Now there are sometimes there are frictions, and Northerners like me, they may be called racist for saying, "Oh, you know, your Southerners are all the same." And
okay,
but
right, yeah,
we have our differences. It's not good. It's not bad. For sure, you are more welcomed when you get to southern Italy. That's for sure. And there's a bigger sense of family, a stronger sense of family, of community, as you said. But I think it's more of a southern Italian thing than an Italian thing properly.
But what do, I guess I didn't phrase the question properly in the first place. Like, what do Italians generally make of those movies? Like, what's the general consensus in Italy?
Well, it's appreciated here as well.
Okay.
We see how Italians are portrayed, and I mean, of course, you know that we are not all the same, but
obviously not. No.
Stereotypes are based on real things, after all.
Yep.
So it's sad on one side, but on the other, being quite accurate as a movie. And there's nothing we can complain about.
So in the sense that it's good to be represented, but it's also, it's like a double-edged sword. Like it's good and negative at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I again, like, just reiterating my previous point, I do think there's a big distinction between Italian Americans and then Italians. Like, it's, I don't know, it's, to me, I can see the difference very clearly.
Never met an Italian American, but there are comedians joking about them all the time. They try to sound Italian, they try to be Italian when they're not. And I mean, we're just normal people.
Obviously, yeah. But I mean, I suppose it's the whole thing, isn't it?
You don't have to act like a gangster to be an Italian. You don't have to grow a mustache like Peter Griffin to be an Italian. although I have one, but it's just my style.
What it's a good mustache. What are your thoughts on the Vatican? because I kind of find it very interesting that it's legally considered like an actual country, like it's its own region. And I've read weird things over the years about the Vatican, like the fact that it's got these secret hidden vaults full with books and stuff, and various secrets, works of art, etc. The Vatican has its own football team, for those who don't know, its own
Yeah.
railway system. I believe is the smallest in the world. It's mostly used for bringing goods in and out of the Vatican to Italy, but it's also occasionally used for tourism to bring people around the city.
Well, tourism is strong there for sure. Vatican City is basically a few buildings surrounded by Rome.
Yeah.
That's it. Rome is the only place on earth to have a state within a city. It's not even a state within a state, because we have another one, San Marino,
Okay.
a little bit northern than that. Beautiful place. Visited.
That's where all the racing is done, or one of the racing locations.
Yeah, but I think the circuit is not actually in San Marino. It's in Italian territory. But
okay.
I may have to look for that. Anyway, the Vatican is a problem for some social issues here. It has an influence. There was this sort of agreement signed in 1929 by Benito Mussolini with the church, called the Patti Lateranensi. Basically, I don't want to say anything incorrect, so I'm looking for them right now, but basically is a non-belligerent agreement, meaning that you don't hurt us, we don't hurt you, okay? And since then, the church has had an influence on our society.
As far as influence on political affairs, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, they are, because the state of the church has been really shrunk when Italy was unified. It was a massive state, covered almost all central Italy before the unification. And but basically it's a sort of a trading deal between the church and the state. And as an atheist and anti-church guy myself, I really hope that in the future the Vatican City and the church stay completely out of our businesses. That's my hope. I don't know if it will ever become truth, but
I get that. I mean, it is very strange to me that they can have so much influence and change when they're so secretive themselves and they keep so much hidden from the public. You know what I mean? It's like, if you've got nothing to hide, then why hide it, kind of thing? You know what I mean? Like, it's that's always bugged me, to be honest. That whole, mostly just that. I'm not a religious man either, but the whole fact that they have all this hidden knowledge locked.
It's all about keeping their status quo. I mean, there's strong lobbies down there. They want gay marriage banned. They want to keep their money. That the church doesn't pay any taxes on its buildings, at least here in Italy. I don't know the rest of the world, but
I think actually, no, you're onto something there. If you're, I know in America, there's a lot of pastors who, and it's obvious they're, charlatans, they're trying to do people out of their money. These people fly around in private jets, receive millions of donations, to the point where some of them are billionaires, and they're able to escape tax purely because everything is done through donations, and it's a registered charity, I think, or at least religion falls under that. But it's like ridiculous the amount of money that they make through people, and they're constantly asking for this money, and it's like, how do they really help? Do you know what I mean? It is donations, and people are freely able to give those donations, but I mean, they're billionaires. That's insane.
If the church were to pay his taxes here in Italy, we would save 5 billion euros a year.
Damn.
That's how much the church owes the state. Basically, what it owes. Sorry, English. And yeah, I just want to kick their asses out of our institutions. That's all I hope for.
What do you make of this pope, this new pope? Because he's very different to all the other popes that have been before. He kind of strikes me as, or either he is a more of a normal kind of guy, or he's at least trying to be. And you know, I don't know. That's kind of interesting. I mean, I've heard things like he often refuses. He often wants to like walk around. He refuses to go in the Pope mobile or whatever. You know, he's a bit more giving of his time as far as, you know, going out and speaking to people and being around people and such.
Well, it is a good news within the Vatican to have this kind of pope who's, I think he's trying to make some change. Mm-hmm. Recently, he spoke about gay people and said that they are normal people. They should be able to have a relationship.
Yeah, when just on that, I wanted to bring this point up actually. That is kind of unprecedented. I don't think previous pope has never said that. And obviously, I think are they technically Catholic, or if I've got this wrong, like it's like a traditional form of Christianity, like a more orthodox form of Christianity. So it's kind of like crazy to think that they're actually considering making gay marriage like or at least putting their stamp of approval on it is a big move forward for that version of the Christianity.
It is a big move. It is a big move, and that's why this pope is under constant pressure from the lobbies, from the anti-gay lobbies, and from they're trying to take him down.
Interesting. Okay.
This is some news I found. I'm not that kind of guy who looks up on the internet. Oh, this is real. I have to tweet it. No, I made a little bit of research after I found some, and there are some associations who are trying to take him down because
it's all business,
because of money, basically.
Because
of money.
Yeah,
and
I mean, it's the same.
Apparently, sorry, let me finish. Apparently, the leader of the major right-wing party in Italy is involved in this kind of association. So it's all politics versus church versus shit kind of thing. It's a mess. It is a mess.
It always comes down to that as well. I mean, it's the same in the UK as far as when certain changes are needed to be made in our government. You get a lot of lobbyists who are representing different organizations, different industries and stuff like that. And it's all about money. They pump money into that party, often to get them elected, and then they get in the changes they want that are made that aren't necessarily good for the country or even, you know, those particular industries, but it will benefit those particular businesses that are trying to push that forward.
Absolutely.
Moving things forward, I wanted to take this opportunity to ask you about your experience of COVID-19, specifically the first lockdown in Italy, because I think for a lot of us, we were looking at Italy as like, I don't know how to put it, like I suppose everyone's eyes was kind of on Italy and China at one point in the beginning of all of this. Obviously, China were able to kind of move out of it, and it weirdly seems like business as usual there now. Whereas in Italy, you had a very, very strict lockdown. I mean, it was different from ours in the sense that from what I could, I don't know how factual this is, but what I understood was in Italy for most of the lockdown, there was very restricted access to be able to move around and stuff. Like you were only able to go to the store and like, that's it. And in the UK, we had something similar in the beginning. It took us a while to, you know, so we were kind of, as far as like, I guess the progress of COVID-19, we were like a month or two behind you guys. But when we implemented it, it was very much like unless you're like an essential worker, you can't go outside, and you can only go outside for like light exercise or to go to the store. And like it was like that for like a month or two, something like that. But what was your experience of the
Well,
situation?
now going back, the first cases of COVID in Italy, I believe, were found on two Chinese tourists in Rome, the end of January, if I recall correctly. And then we started talking about some closures around the end of February. And I live close to one of the very first area restricted with the COVID rules. And by March the 8th, I believe, 9th, we were in complete and total lockdown for 3 months. And I think Italy did well in doing this first lockdown, but some places closed down too late. For instance, in Bergamo, which is an important city up in northern Lombardy, there was this Champions League match between Atalanta and Valencia, and that match caused so many. How do you say that?
Cases.
Cases, yeah. So many cases, and the mortality rate in Bergamo went up by 500% during the pandemic. There were so many deaths that military trucks
Sort of like
got the coffins and moved the coffins away from Bergamo to other cities so that they could bury the bodies. There were just too many bodies to bury.
Wow.
And the governor of Lombardy was, and also some made. I'm not talking about political stuff. It's both left and right. The region of Lombardy is ruled by the right, and some cities from left wing mayors, but they all underestimated the pandemic at the first times. So until March, basically nothing was closed down and people were still going to work. And that caused so many cases in Lombardy. Lombardy is probably the place, one of the most affected places on earth. As of myself, didn't get that much in trouble. I started working from home. Now I work from home 3 days a week and then go to the office 2 days a week. So not a big deal. Not a big deal, to be honest. Didn't lose my job. I didn't lose any of the things I did. So the mistake that Italy made and that many other countries made was to open up in the summer too much. And also, I hate to say this, but if you don't give strict rules to Italians will not follow, advices. You have to put strict rules here, because as soon as pubs and clubs were reopened in the summer in June, it was like nothing has ever happened. So
and that's what
then we got caught up with the second wave, and now we are in another restriction period starting from the end of October, and so that's what it is.
Talk us through a little bit through, because actually before we get to that, I do remember that. I remember seeing like footage of Italy in the summer, and we were all blown away because we were still, I think, either in lockdown or like some restrictive kind of state, and we were looking at you guys like, what? It's like back to normal there? What's going on? And we kept getting told by the government here, like, oh, we're just behind Italy, they're ahead of us, they were more responsive and that's why they're ahead of us, blah blah blah, right? But it still didn't make sense to us here. So it's interesting that you say that. And talk us through a little bit the restrictive situation that you're in, because right now we've just come out of a 1 month lockdown, and we've, since the end of summer until now and going into the new year, we've got this tier system thing going on. So it's different levels of restrictions based on the perceived level of cases in a particular region. So some places have nearly everything open. Some places have certain things open. I think in tier 3, where we are in Manchester, it's heavily restricted. So only like food shops, clothing stores, those are the types of places that are open. Like pubs and clubs are not open, basically.
Yeah. Well, during the summer, it felt like it was over to some extent, because we had a few dozen cases per day. Like the full lockdown that lasted 3 months worked in keeping the cases really low. But then we got up again in October. So now we have 3-tier systems here, based on Italy is divided into 19 regions and 2 provinces that form another region, but not not going to dig into that. And every region has a color, either yellow, orange, or red. Right now, I'm in a yellow zone, so the lowest possible scenario. Yeah. And shops are closed during the holidays and Sundays and Saturdays. You can go to a restaurant, but only at lunch, and then they close down at 6 p.m. And you can move to other yellow regions. We just came out of the orange zone. In the orange zone, everything is closed down, even restaurant. You can order, to take away for delivery services, but you cannot move if not for health issues, work issues, or emergencies. And you have to bring this. Is it? Yeah. You have to sign this. Yeah. If they pull you over and you don't have a valid reason to be outside, you get fined up to 400 euros, even 1,000.
Interesting, because we've been told in the UK that there is supposed to be some sort of system in place to give you fines if you're found breaking the rule. So, for example, we've had something for a long time where it's the rule of 6, where you can't be in a group any bigger than 6 people. But I've never personally seen police enforcing this, like giving out these fines, whatever. It just sounds like a lot of hearsay by the government that's not actually being acted upon. So you're saying basically that the police are enforcing these things quite rigidly?
Well, during the lockdown, there was this kind of funny reporting every day on the newspaper. You saw, today 20,000 fines to people trying to sneak out of their home. Now it's a bit more relaxed, but for instance, my sister got a fine because she was sitting in a car with a couple of friends and they weren't wearing a mask. It's 400 euros for her. Yeah. I'm framing the news because it got reported on our local newspaper. I'm framing the news and giving her to Christmas as a present. Just to remind that, it's not convenient to break the rules.
Well, what's the deal with the masks then? Do you have to wear it like everywhere all the time, or
everywhere all the time, unless you do physical exercise?
Okay, so if I'm walking down the street though and I'm not wearing a mask, that's an instant fine.
Yep.
Damn. Okay, that's something that's different in the UK that I've seen in Manchester. Is like it's kind of a given that you have to wear it indoors, but as far as people just walking around outside, people don't wear them. Which is kind of interesting. But
well, it should be enforced, but of course, it's not that there are cameras here that they get you. It's not. We're not in a dictatorship or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
And I didn't get pulled over. I wasn't pulled over so far, but I always have this with me just in case.
Damn. Have you seen any kind of crazy behavior from people around you in Italy? Because some of the crazy behavior we've had is obviously in the beginning of the first lockdown, we had panic buying, quite a lot of that, and we also had a little bit of it going into this second lockdown. obviously most of the crazy behavior you hear about is in the States and stuff, but I'm just interested to hear about if there was anything crazy you saw in Italy or heard about in regards to that.
On the newspapers, yes, a lot. People coming up with all sorts of excuses to escape from their houses, and I don't know if I can find some of them. Oh.
Was there anything you were witness to specifically?
No, but on Instagram, maybe following some friends of mine, some people I know. You don't go to the East Coast. Come on, just because it's summer during a pandemic.
Yeah.
They did. Too many people in clubs and discos.
It's a tricky one with holidays because I've seen people going on holiday too, and I'm like, well, on one hand, it's okay if it's just like you and your partner and you're going to somewhere really quiet, I don't know, that's very rural, and like I kind of get that. But if you're just going on a standard holiday to, like, I don't know, Spain or something, and you want a beach holiday, I feel like that's just a really stupid idea.
I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't get. Of course, I mean, I get those who went to holiday because they already booked and didn't want to lose their money. Okay, I can sort of understand this, but if you book during a pandemic to go to Spain, as you said, Greece, come on, you're a fool.
Well, no, something interesting as well is there's a guy that I volunteer with who told me he's got a holiday booked right now to go to Spain, and he was telling me that he had to pay, I think it was like something like 140 euros each per person to get a test, a COVID test, to then get a certificate that would prove, like, yeah, negative, blah, 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 I can come with my partner. And if they don't get them, they're not allowed into the country, into Spain. Which is kind of interesting because I understand the Spanish government's decision on that. I think that is kind of sensible, but at the same time, it's like crazy, like how much they're charging. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel something like that is like your 15 euros tops. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
140 euros each. Jesus. Yeah. As we draw it to a close for this, what are your thoughts on the vaccines that are being sort of dished out at the moment? Because there seems to be a bit of a competition as far as what's available. They've all got different percentage rates as far as effectiveness is concerned. I believe in the UK we've had our first first use of
first vaccination. Yep.
Yeah,
I read about it.
90-year-old woman, I believe, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Also, a guy named William Shakespeare was vaccinated. I saw on the news. So
only in England, man.
That is so British humor.
Oh, do you know something that is really British is pun names? Like we seem to love that. I know I kind of love it too. It's a very kind of silly, stupid British humor thing, but I love it. It's brilliant.
And the Spanish magician that said uno, dos, and disappeared without a trace.
Hey,
yeah. That was terrible. It was terrible. I'm sorry.
It was
sorry
excellent
for your audience.
We love it. We love it.
But the vaccine, I just trust science. I think so. They said it was going to be available for next year, for January, for spring of 2021. I trust them. So don't think I don't have much to comment about it. I will do the vaccine as soon as it becomes available. So
fair enough.
Yep.
Bringing it back to your podcast, tell us more about what you like about podcasting. Like, what kind of drives you and motivates you as far as doing podcasting is concerned?
May still have to figure it out. Well, actually, but it's the whole process. It's the whole process. Spending an hour or two, like 2-3 times a week. Also, now that it's not wise to go outside. Also,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
raining. Also, it's raining really bad in Italy, at least here, for a few days or so. It's a good way to spend some free time.
Play.
And there's not something I like more than others. I like talking to strangers. I like talking to uh, all the guests I get. I also like to write down some stuff for some ideas, and editing. I love editing.
You like editing?
Yeah,
Why?
I love it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't record the videos. I just have the audio to put together. I
Okay.
like putting I don't know, sounds and intros and breaks. I
Yeah,
just like it.
I've noticed you do that actually. It's done very
Yep.
well. I thought it was pretty cool. Like very professionally put together.
Wow. Thank you. Because it was the very first time I tried it. So may have a
um,
talent on that.
absolutely, absolutely. What do you dislike or find challenging about podcasting?
Probably preparing the episode. As you said in the intro,
Yeah, just the research part of
I
it.
I really I agree with you that it's not always easy to find topics to talk about. That's the hardest part. I'd say also finding guests is hard, but it's not actually that hard. I mean, Reddit is a great place to find your guest.
Yeah, I keep saying this all the time as many
Incredible.
times as I
Also,
can.
also Instagram. Also, Instagram is quite good. You follow
Yeah,
some profiles, but Reddit is the best. I mean,
it is, isn't it? Like I've said this to a few guests now, some of whom I've actually found through Reddit. Obviously, we found each other through Reddit,
yep.
but they're there. There's these two in particular. I think it's podcast, just r/podcast, and then r/podcast exchange. I believe it's a new one actually.
Podcast. There are two boards: podcast guest and podcast guest
That's
exchange.
right. Yeah, but there's
Yeah.
also podcast itself, which is like more
Yep.
like tips for podcasters or people
Yep.
asking, you're like, hey, I'm doing this thing. What do I do? Like I saw something really interesting that someone wanted to set up a podcast about memes, which I thought was a genius idea. I've never seen anything like that, but it's a really kind of a cool idea in a sense, you know?
Yeah, I already did something like that. I recorded some parts about it.
Interesting.
Yeah, season 1 of Cappuccino at 6 will end next Saturday.
Okay.
So yeah, December 12th will be our last episode for this season. And then the following Saturday, 19th, we will have a special episode with all the bloopers and outtakes. And there are some memes.
Nice one.
Yeah, on that. I talk about memes. Also do something really cringeworthy, but I'm not going to tell anything. At the end of the special episode, which is called Shots of Whiskey, because I have the formats are espresso for the Italian episode, and then hot chocolate are the casual talks, and spicy latte are the interviews. So I
That's
invented
such
this
a cool
shots.
idea. Well done. That's well done on that.
Shout out to my colleague Luca for giving me this idea of the formats. So I created shots of whiskey for all the bloopers and outtakes. It will be out on December 19th, and I'm already recording the season 2 episodes. Will be aired probably mid-January.
With regards to these
onwards.
seasons, yeah, because I've had a few podcasters on this podcast before, and they've often spoken about doing seasons. Is that to give yourself like a bit of a breather, or do you do it? I don't know, according to like the season of the year, so like winter, summer, or like what is the logic behind that?
It's something I came up with just a few days ago. So not really sure why I'm doing this, but yeah, there's a break because the last recordings I did for season 1 were on early November, I think. Early
Okay.
to mid-November. So, and I recorded the first episode of the second season yesterday. So it's also to have a break. I mean, with my job, I don't have that much of a. I have some spare time, but I don't want to use it all to edit 3 episodes per week. I would go crazy. So also I have my girlfriend here living with me, so I don't want to leave her alone.
Who knows what you might get up to?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I get it. It's you're balancing a lot of plates. You got to put time for yourself, for your work, for everything. I get that. That's sensible. Yeah, you interview people on your podcast. That was one of the things you mentioned. Who was your favorite guest so far, and why?
Okay, I have to think about it a little bit. Let me check my schedule, because I don't want to miss any of it. One of the first guests really struck me because I interviewed a US Army veteran.
Ah, yeah, I saw that one.
I was really honored to talk with him, and his story about drugs, addiction. So really interesting to do. Also, one of my favorites. Also an Indian guy interviewed. How the episode called "How's India." I'm sorry. His connection was really bad, so
Yeah, I
that's
can
a
imagine.
bummer. But we talked about a lot of stuff, even if the call lasted just maybe 30 minutes or so, and super interesting to speak with him. Also, the upcoming episode, which will close the season one, with a Canadian philosopher. It's
Ooh,
interesting.
yeah, definitely.
Anderson, shout out to Anderson for being my guest. It was really interesting.
Cool, dude. Cool. And what? This is a final question just for the podcast, but what are your kind of goals and aspirations for this podcast?
The goal is to have fun, and I really mean it. And okay, let me put it this way. Until I have fun making the episode and interviewing and editing and all of this, I will keep doing it. If I have less time to do that, I will maybe keep the episode shorter or make less episodes. If I don't want to do that, of course, I have to speak with my co-host as well about this, but I have no problems in ending the podcast whenever I feel I don't want to go on anymore. And
Yeah.
if something comes up, if I become famous, if I start making money out of it, perfect. If not, I don't care. That's right. I care about very few things in life. The podcast is not one of those. It's just a way to have fun.
You know, I think you make a very solid point. Like, I remember when I started doing YouTube properly last year, I got really stressed about the numbers and like down, like, oh, I wish more people were watching. I wish this would happen. I wish that would happen. Blah, blah, blah. And then it wasn't until I suppose the last 3 to 6 months that I've really gone crazy with YouTube, podcasting, all of these different things. And now I like enjoy it more than ever. And I kind of look at the numbers like with curiosity, but I don't obsess over them anymore. And I purely just focus on like, do I enjoy this? Is this fun? And like, I always use that as a kind of my main motivation. And I got to say with this podcast in general, I feel exactly the way that you do. Like, I feel like, well, I'll keep doing this as long as it's fun. And particularly interviewing people is very interesting to me. It's like one aspect of the podcast. Like most of it is interviewing. There are some episodes where I have a co-host, shout out to Dutch Deals, and we talk about various different things. We do special episodes here and there. Or sometimes I just do an episode where I just talk at length about a particular topic. But I have to say, like, out of all of those things, the podcast interviews are always my favorite because you learn about someone completely new. Every time it's a challenge. Some are easier, some are harder, but there's always that kind of challenge, ultimate challenge to make sure that the episode is as good as it possibly can be, an interesting conversation, both to watch and to listen to. And yeah, a challenge to yourself. Like, how can I continue to make this fun for myself and keep myself motivated to continue to do it?
Yeah, it's the same as maybe I think running. Do you run to become an Olympic champion, or do you run just to keep in shape? I run to keep in shape. So Do you have a podcast to become the best podcaster #1 in the world? Maybe one day, but as of now, I'm just keeping my shape with the old editing and interviewing stuff.
See, you've hit on something interesting there, because I feel like, yeah, it is important to be happy and just do it for those reasons. But I'll be honest with you, like I want I want to do this for a living. I really do. I really enjoy it. I feel like I'm good at it. Like, I don't know. I mean, I found it awkward saying good things about myself. I find it awkward as hell if someone says something positive about me. So it's even more awkward saying, hey, yeah, I think I'm good at this thing. But like, one thing I pride myself on is putting like 100% effort into something, like always. And my point being that I think that if you have that kind of motivation and drive to be like the absolute best or one of the best, then I feel like through that you get better quality content anyway, and a much higher chance of becoming something. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's obviously, you have to be realistic. There's so much competition out there, and this podcast being set up every single day, right? But the one thing I've noticed is that not many of them necessarily continue. I've seen a lot of podcasts, they'll go like, yeah, we're setting up a new podcast, we're doing this thing. And then 10, 15 episodes in, they just randomly stop. And it's...
try to look on YouTube for my first video. And then you see all those kids going, oh, on this channel, I will play Fortnite 3 times a week and then do a vlog.
Then reality sits in.
And you see the very first video, and it's 3 years ago. So yeah, you have to find some balance between what you want and what you expect.
Managing expectations is what some people would put it as.
Absolutely.
I think that's a very good point. Again, I mean, these are solid points you're making. I got to say, like, when I first started doing the podcast, I did a podcast before with a couple of friends, and we got up to about 7 episodes, and that was 3 people sharing the work. But for some reason, there was a lot of stress I felt every week doing it. Just once a week felt stressful. Then I started doing my own podcast, and I felt like it was something I always wanted to do, but I had no idea just how much work would be involved. And now it's like the reality is really set in. It's clipping up stuff, it's editing, it's trying to find people to appear, it's promoting yourself, it's all of these different things. And if you're not prepared to do that, then you're not going to last more than a couple of episodes. That's the reality.
I agree 100%. That's why I thank my co-host Pietro for uploading the episodes and doing all the advertising.
Yeah.
That he does on Instagram, on other social media. So yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, not much I can add to what you said.
Let's move it forward. What other hobbies and interests do you have outside of podcasting?
Okay. So as a web developer, as your regular web developer, I'm quite a nerd. So movies and TV shows, more movies than TV shows, and music a lot. I listen to a lot of music, metal music, most of the times. Get that? And sports. I like sports. I like running. I played football for 15 years. Damn. When I was younger. Yeah. Like I'm old now. So. And besides that, well, I'm interested in politics, actuality. I hate pronounce that. So reading newspapers online stuff. Yeah, it's basically it. So my days are here working, writing lines of code, recording, listening to whatever. Listening to a lot of podcasts as well, and metal music, and playing some video games after that.
I stalked your Instagram profile, obviously, for my research. For research purposes, of course. And I noticed that you went to a Dream Theater gig in, I believe, 2014. And I immediately
My
was like,
very
"Oh my
first
god,
concert, very first
really?
concert. Yeah,
Oh wow,
I just turned 18. It
oh
was
damn, okay."
a few days after my 18th birthday on July 2014. So yeah, I was in the front row, by the way.
Nice. Well, the
In
reason I bring it up is this is one of my favorite bands of all time. And I've never actually spoken about Dream Theater on the podcast or any videos I've ever done. But yeah, I just have many.
amazing concert, amazing concert.
Oh, yeah,
And
absolutely.
I didn't know Dream Theater that much because in that period I mean I grew up listening to Green Day, Linkin Park, The Offspring, uh, alternative punk. Then I turned into metalhead, but just the less heavy stuff. So maybe Metallica, maybe Guns N' Roses,
Yeah.
Nickelback. Also, I was a Nickelback fan. I apologize for that.
They
But
get a lot of hate, you know, but I got to
yeah,
say, so I got to give some love to Nickelback because if you've actually sat down and properly listened to Nickelback, they're one of those bands where you got to listen to the full record. They have the radio friendly songs, but I guarantee you, if you listen to the rest of the record,
they have some good songs. Yeah,
yeah, but like
uh,
actually heavy proper songs, like that aren't
yeah.
radio, because they do it on purpose. Every time they put a record out, they'll put one or two songs that are like, you know, Nickelback that we know, and the rest of the record will be heavy as hell, like good stuff.
Their 2013 album, maybe no 2012, 2013 album called Here and Now was very heavy,
Mm.
very heavy. There's some very good songs on it.
Sort of like hard rock vibe to it, isn't it?
Yep, yep. And but do you know the site is Nickelback the worst band ever.com? There's a
No. Okay.
type in your browser is Nickelback the worst band ever.com. There's a big fat giant yes on the screen and nothing else. So
that's so mean.
internet
They
trolling.
clearly
Yeah,
not.
that's a meme. But yeah, I discovered Dream Theater with their album Dream Theater.
Okay.
After they put out their the song The Enemy Inside.
Yes.
I fell in love with that song, and I didn't know, as I said, I didn't know them very well, but it was this concert in Brescia, which is a city not too far away from where I lived. So go for it. First concert, 18 years old. What could go wrong? In fact, nothing went wrong. I was alone, but I made some friends along the way, just for the evening. We never spoke after that, but front row, 3.5 hours of Dream Theater. It's amazing.
That's the dream. That's the dream.
With the fear of a that the concert was to be canceled because it was raining, but then did not. So perfect, amazing experience.
I've seen them twice. I saw them once in 2010 when they released the A Series of Unfortunate Events album, and that was also the first album with their newer drummer Mike Mangini. And I also saw them in 2012, I believe. They did a random appearance at a UK festival, and I was obviously, because I was massive fan by that point. I still am, but like, you know, I was really into them. So when I found out
I
they
was
were
a bigger fan as well back a few years ago.
oh man,
I love them, but they're not my favorite band anymore, probably.
Yeah, I got to say,
Like,
I'm not as big a fan of the newer music. Like for me, my favorite let's talk favorite albums from them, because I want to talk about this. So for me, their best albums are everything from their first album up until probably A Series of Unfortunate Events, to be honest. But the absolute best ones for me are Scenes from a Memory. Let me see, probably Octavarium, and then Falling into Infinity, Awake, and Images and Words. So a lot of more of their older stuff. It's like OG stuff. But how about yourself?
I don't know if I have a favorite album.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really tough. Images and Words are Awake are two masterpieces.
Yeah.
I also like Black Clouds and Silver Linings.
That's a good one.
How's the song name? Nightmare to Remember. It's wonderful. 16 minutes long with that acoustic in the middle after 6 minutes, and it gets beautiful. But one song I really, probably my favorite song right now from Dream Theater is Erotomania.
Yeah,
Not
that's a good one.
not to be not to be mean to Labrie, but it's one of two songs that can make me headbang with the keyboard. Know what I mean?
Yeah, I kind of, because that's from Awake, I believe, isn't it?
From Awake.
Yeah, I feel like, because they had a different keyboardist back then, a guy called
Yep.
Derek Shinninan, something like that.
Sheridan.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, obviously they replaced him in early 2000s with a guy called Jordan Rudess, who you
Yep.
first hear on Scenes from a Memory, and he's excellent. Don't get me wrong, but it's a different vibe. Like I feel like with the older,
Scenes from Memory, not the other one, the following one. I
no,
think
it was Scenes from a Memory, I believe.
Scenes from a Memory.
Yeah, because Scenes from a Memory came out in
1999.
That's right. Yeah. And he started touring with them and then
Oh,
around that
okay.
time. And then I believe that's the first record they did together. So before that, what was the final record? It could have been a change of seat. No, Falling into Infinity, I believe, was the last album with Derek Shinninan, and the last one before Scenes from a Memory.
Yep.
They
Yeah,
also
you're right. You're
Right,
right.
and they also did like a bunch of stuff in the 90s. It was really cool, actually. Because Falling into Infinity gets a lot of hate, but I don't know. I thought it was an excellent album. Like people say, oh, they were going more like, pop. They were becoming more.
Not their best, not their worst. It's a good album.
It's a good
Definitely.
record, yeah. It's not like best Dream Theater, but it's a good record. It's a good, like they never put out a bad album that's like not good quality. Do you know what I mean? It might not always be to your taste, but they never put out like a bad quality album, as far as I'm concerned.
Even The Astonishing, which is a record I find extremely hard to listen to
Yeah,
because
same.
it's
I wasn't a
so
fan.
melodic and probably my least favorite, but has that song at the end of the first CD. Let me
See, this is what I feel they're lacking because I feel like when they had Mike Portnoy on board, the songwriting was a lot. There was more of a metal element, but it was a nice blend.
a
Obviously
new
they got
beginning, a new beginning.
that's the one. Yeah.
Beautiful song. That outro, beautiful. But yeah, it's just among 34 songs. I mean, you can get one right, but the other 33 is not. No.
I feel like, again, I really feel like they're missing Mike Portnoy with his songwriting.
Probably.
It really, I don't know. I feel like the blend of him, because as I understand, the main songwriters in that band are Labrie, Portnoy when he was in the band, and then I want to say maybe Rudess has some influence on it, but it's largely Labrie. And I feel like if you don't have the heavier side to blend with Labrie and Rudess, then it's kind of it gets too melodic, and that's fine. Every album is different, but like they are still a metal band. You know what I mean? Like when they don't have the metal there, it's like, I guess it's more of a shame than anything. Like it's fine to be experimental. Like I almost felt like Scenes from a Memory, no, not Scenes from a Memory, sorry. The first album, A Dramatic Turn of Events, was exciting, was interesting. It's like, okay, so no Portnoy, we've got this Mike Mangini guy in, it's a different vibe, what comes next? Then they do Dream Theater, the self-titled album, and it had like a good blend of the two. It was like a mixture of what they did on A Dramatic Turn of Events with kind of almost like a blend of that metal style that you come to expect in albums like Silver Clouds and what was the other one? Systematic
Black
Chaos.
Clouds and Silver Linings and Systematic Chaos. Yes.
But then that album that you're talking about, The Astonishing, comes out like 3 years later, and it's like not what we're expecting at all. It's like so far.
Dream Theater is one of their best albums, in my opinion.
Ooh,
Beautiful.
That's high praise. I don't know. I still don't feel like
maybe
stuff
it's
holds
because
up.
the album with which I got to know them. But
fair enough. Yeah, everyone has their bias. For me, it's Scenes from a Memory is my absolute favorite because of just.
I get what you say about Mike Portnoy because Liquid Tension Experiment, right?
Yes, it's basically just Dream Theater, but like if every song was a solo.
Yeah. Petrucci, Rudess, Portnoy, and Tony Levin playing the bass. Acid Rain. It's one of the best songs ever written in human history. By the way,
Wow.
it's the other of those two songs that make me headbang with the keyboards.
Yeah.
Erotomania and Acid Rain by Liquid Tension Experiment.
That whole
Absolutely.
album, that Awake
Bangers.
album, the Awake album is so heavy. Like it's such a, like maybe it's just the guitar, but it's like such a, like as soon as the album starts with 6 a.m., it's like, it's almost like a complete, if you imagine like Images and Words is like a light kind of ballad metal record, Awake just punches you in the face with like really powerful screaming and singing. Like I know this is just becoming a review, but I don't care. I love this band. Like I really feel like they're amazing songwriters and they really get across the feeling in the music. That's something that you don't always get with modern metal, is like that feeling coming across. I feel like a lot of it is way too overproduced, and it's just, you know, maybe the lyrics are there but it doesn't speak to you. But with Dream Theater, I don't know, I always kind of get that feeling of what they're trying to put across with every record, you know?
I think it comes down to what I listen. I'm not a musician, never studied music, so I don't know any of the technical part of music, but what I look for in a song, in the music I listen to, is either a sensation or a style I really love. And about Dream Theater, I really love their style. It's the same with Black Sabbath. Also saw them live. You can see on my Instagram. The very last concert in Italy, in Verona, in 2016, amazing concert. I like their style. Same with Motorhead and many other bands. If I don't get the style of a band, or if maybe I just like the genre or the type of thing they play. Like for instance, I love Periphery, Protest the Hero, all those.
Man, you got a good taste in music, man. Well done.
Thank you. all those progressive metal, modern progressive metal bands, because they can surprise you.
Mm-hmm.
And why should I listen to those kind of things if I like Black Sabbath, which are basic heavy metal? It's because it's a different sensation.
Yeah.
I also love plain violence, like complete and total violence.
Cool.
Getting out of a song, but in a context. I'm sure you know about David Townsend and their first band. Strapping Young Lad.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I can't believe I didn't remember that. God damn it.
The song "All Hail the New Flesh" from the start to the end. It's so heavy, even though it's not extreme metal by definition. It's just pure violence, and I love it. And it's another type of thing I look for in a song.
I remember growing up, like that was always the thing with metal, was if you were a metal fan, it was always like, what's the heaviest, what's the fastest thing? And then when you become an adult, you realize that none of that shit matters. It's more about how it makes you feel. Yeah, that's what's more important. And it's just true. I mean, you listen to Black Sabbath, they are excellent songwriters. That is classic metal music that stands the test of time. Dream Theater, when you're listening to it, sounds like a mixture of a science experiment, or it's like intelligent music, but it can be very emotive as well. It's got everything. If you take bands that you listed, like Motorhead is just like, you want to put on some good fucking music, put that on and you won't be disappointed.
You're driving, you get the playlist, there you go.
Absolutely it gets you going. It's like good music. If you just want to get amped up, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I mean, and at its core, like music in general, that's how it should be. It's how it makes you feel. It's like what it gets out of you. And yeah, metal music is great for that. Like I don't listen to metal as much anymore, but I will say that every time I put it on, I always do get that amped feeling. And sometimes I just switch it on just to remember that feeling, because it's fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
not always about the heaviest. I mean, otherwise I would listen to death metal all day, and I don't really like it, death and black metal. But when they're in a context,
it's an acquired taste.
something more complicated.
Yeah.
For instance, black metal itself, I don't really like it. But Alcest, do you know Alcest?
I haven't heard of them. No. Alcest.
They put black metal in a context of black gaze, they call it. So it's black metal mixed with this soft singing in French because they're French, and
Ah, interesting.
it becomes something completely different, completely new, and I love it. Also, all the influence that metal can have with folk, with
Mm.
reggae, even reggae. Skin Dread,
Yes.
reggae metal, super band, and electronics, electronic music blend with metal. It most of the time it works.
Yeah.
Dubstep and metal make
It's
quite
true,
good.
actually. You can pretty much mix metal with anything, and it will probably work out.
Yep.
I'm intrigued to see if anyone pulls it off with jazz, though. That's a real test. Jazz metal.
Well, they did. They did.
Oh, who did that?
Oh, just a couple of bands. Atheist is a band.
Okay.
They mixed jazz with. They sort of played death metal, but with a jazzy vibe. Also, Cynic did something like
Okay.
that back in the 80s, 90s, I think. And Shining, a band
Okay.
from Norway. They play black jazz, which is
Black jazz. Wow.
it,
Cool.
you have to listen to get a sense of what black jazz means. It's basically jazz but under steroids, and really really mad jazz.
Damn. Damn.
I'll link you some songs on
Yeah,
RadioPublic
yeah, please do.
later
I'll
on.
definitely check all of this stuff out. Awesome. Let's move it forward again. I want to talk a little
Okay.
bit about you as a web developer. I know we've glanced on this a little bit, but I just want to explore this a little bit. So, talk us through your kind of main responsibilities and tell us what the job is like in general.
I don't have that much of a responsibility. I'm just a regular employee, and we get the task to be done, and we do that. We're just three people working for this company, so it's not a IT company.
Mm.
We are responsible for some sites and to manage all the practices and all the documents of the company we work for. Which basically is a company of agents that go selling uh, phone plans. Okay. Yeah. I don't know how to translate it in
No,
English,
I
but
get
anyway.
it. Yeah, your
So
mobile phone plans, basically.
yeah, and
Is it VoIP as well, or is it just straight up mobile phone systems?
well, it's lots of things. Also services for the companies and etc.
It's
So
just
we
I've on a side note, I've actually been because I do freelance marketing, and one of my clients offers VoIP, which is like voice over internet protocol. So like voice calls, but
yeah, all
specifically for
sorts of
business
things, all
solutions.
sorts of things in terms of telecommunication. So
Yes, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and we are behind the thing, and we manage these sites for the customers and for the agents and the offices and all the practices. So yeah, besides that, I when I don't have to complete the task for a new implementation, for some updates we need to do, I also do some research
Okay.
on how to build a more efficient site. So I study as well. I study a lot, new technologies, because I mean we are a bit. We want to change a little bit. We want to move
Mm,
on to some new technologies. So it's my job as well to try to build what we have with and build it more efficiently with the modern day technologies.
right. Yeah. And what would you say are the probably the best aspects of the job, or your favorite parts of the job?
We get to listen to music and podcast while we program. So when you know what to do
Yeah.
and it's sort of becoming a mechanical job, and you know what to write, having music blasting in the background or in your headset, it's beautiful. It's quite a dream job. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm 24, so being able to afford a rent for the house, a car, and everything, and I listen to music while I work. What's best?
Hey, fair play, man. Yeah, sometimes
Yeah,
it is the simple pleasures in life that make it, you know,
absolutely.
worth living and so on. So yeah, fair play, fair play.
Of course,
Um,
I'm not rich yet, but there's the podcast. So that,
hey, you never know. You
one
never know.
day, one day.
What would you say are the kind of worst aspects of the job, or things that you're not as sort of liking about the position?
It can get boring at
Okay.
times. It can get boring, can get stressful. Maybe if you have to finish a job for a certain day and you're struggling because you don't know how to do that. But it's just the regular stress you can get on any kind of job. So nothing too different from any other job.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And as we draw everything to a close today for this podcast, do you have any kind of upcoming projects or maybe some final thoughts that you'd like to share with us?
Coming projects, I don't know. Well, let's say in the coming years, I want to build a family. So that's
Nice.
a quite big life project, but then one step at a time.
Yeah, enjoy being young first, then we'll get to
Yeah,
that. I get
before
it.
I'm 30, for sure. Yeah, I want to move to a bigger house. I want to regular life. And for the podcast, I want to keep it going with constantly, because I feel that when we start opening up, I will have for sure less spare time. So I want to keep it up, and yeah, that's basically it. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed talking to you.
Hey, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast. Everyone listening, whether it be on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you check out the Christian Reeve podcast, make sure you go and support the Cappuccino at 6 podcast. I've checked it out myself. It's very professionally done. It's well put together. It's interesting and, offers something new every time, which is something that I always try to do as well. So I absolutely think this is definitely worth your time listening to. So make sure you go out there and check it out. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who's been listening to the podcast. Great things to come. I know I don't normally say that. I'm normally just saying like, hey, please do this, please do that. But I want to give back as much as I possibly can to you guys, because you have been supporting the podcast and I'm seeing the numbers slowly increase and stuff. I appreciate you. Please be vocal. Please tell me what you like, dislike, who you want to see on the podcast in the future, what you'd like to hear us talk about. A couple of things I want to say is that there will be many more interviews in the coming month, because I'm working like crazy right now. I'm working with Dutch Deals on trying to come up with some interesting topics for us to talk about when I'm not interviewing people. Basically, there are plans and things in the works for this podcast. And yeah, it's exciting times coming ahead. So thank you very much for listening. And until next time, peace out, one love. I shall see you in the next podcast. Ciao.